Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can deploy agents from Google's new Agent Development Kit to the cloud. More specifically, I'm going to walk you through the full process of deploying your agents to Google's agent deployment service called Agent Engine. And by the end of this video, you'll have your first agent deployed to the cloud ready to respond to your real world request. And because you guys are awesome, I'm going to be giving away all the source code in this video, plus some step-by-step instructions completely for free so you can build and deploy your own agents on your own time. Just check out the link down in the description below so you can go ahead and download everything today. And don't worry if you're new to Agent Development Kit or the cloud, I'm going to be breaking down everything step by step so it's as easy as possible to follow. And if you get stuck or have questions for whatever reason, feel free to drop a comment down below, or you can head over to my free Skool Community where you can talk with me and other like-minded AI developers so we can get you unstuck and moving on your projects. But enough talking, let's go ahead and do a quick overview of the core technologies you're going to be using today so that we're on the same page, and then we're going to head over to the 5 steps you need to follow to deploy your local agents to the cloud. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, guys, so before we dive into actually building out and deploying all of our agents to the cloud, we need to understand the core 2 technologies we're going to be using today: Agent Development Kit and then Vertex AI Agent Engine. So let's explain what they are and how they work together to deploy agents. All right, first things first is going to be Agent Development Kit. Agent Development Kit is Google's new agentic framework that allows you to build out agents. So if you've used LangChain or Crew AI, LumIndex, any of these agent frameworks, it is exactly like that. So you'll probably recognize a lot of these instructions for creating an agent, to where you pass in a model that you want the agent to use, give it a name, and then pass in some instructions on like, all right, agent, here's exactly what you need to go off to do. So it should be super familiar to you. A few other cool points to note is Agent Development Kit, you can actually pass in any model. So you could pass in an OpenAI model, a Claude model, any of them. You're not stuck using the Gemini models from Google. And it is completely free to use, just like it is to use LangChain or Crew AI. It's actually an open source repository, so you can actually go in, look at the source code, download it, make pull requests, whatever you want to do. Now, that's how we're going to create our agents. And then now we need to talk about step number 2, which is going to be deploying our agents. And we're going to do that through Vertex AI Agent Engine. This is Google's platform to make agent deployment as easy as possible. Without a tool like this, creating agents and actually deploying them can be a ton of work. And they've done a really good job of simplifying the whole process and making it super affordable. So a few things that you need to know. Inside Agent Engine, you can actually pass in any type of framework you want. So I think they have a really good chart down here that explains it all. So within Agent Engine, this is where you'll actually be like deploying all of your agents. You can actually pass in any agent framework you want. You could pass in Crew AI, LangChain, LumIndex, any agent framework you want. You can pass it in and deploy it through Agent Engine. And then once a agent is deployed, you can actually go off and make requests to it, almost like you would just a regular API. So you can say like, hey, agent, take in this request. Agent Engine is going to host it, deploy it, and actually run the agent, and then spit back the answer to you. Makes it super, super easy to do. And a few other things that I think are pretty cool that you would like to know is when it comes to pricing, it's actually super, super affordable. It is a pay-as-you-go model to where you only pay as the agent is running, which is super important to me because I don't want to be racking up a huge bill of like hundreds of dollars if the agent only gets triggered once. So basically the way it works is, you know, whenever you send a request off to the agent, it's going to start tracking its time and say, okay, cool. It looks like I ran for a total of 3 minutes. And along the way, I used 10,000 tokens. So you're automatically going to pay for the tokens you use. And then on top of that, you're going to pay for the resources that you used. So you can see you're going to pay basically for CPU usage and memory. So if you were to run all in all for an hour, you can expect to pay around 11 cents if you used 1 core and 1 gigabyte. So all around, very affordable, which I was super impressed with. So very excited that they've made it easy to deploy and basically very affordable as well. All right, so now that we've talked about what are the 2 tools we're using, now it's time for us to actually go ahead and see how we're going to create our agents with Agent Development Kit and then easily go ahead and deploy them over to Agent Engine over in Vertex AI. So if you have any questions on any of that, feel free to drop a question down below. I know these are some like more advanced, bigger topics, but let's go ahead now and head into the 5 core steps you need to go from agent to deployed agent. So let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so now that we've talked about the 2 tools you're going to be using, Agent Development Kit and Agent Engine, let's go ahead and cover at a high level the 5 steps you need to take to deploy your agents to the cloud. So first things first, we are going to create an agent using ADK. So I already have a pre-built one for you that you can just go ahead and download for free down in the description below. Once we have our agent set up on our local computer, then we need to go ahead and start setting up our cloud resources. So first, we're going to go ahead and create a new project in Google Cloud Platform. From there, inside Google Cloud Platform, we're going to enable and set up our AI resources. Once we have the cloud set up to support all of the AI functionality, we're on our local computer going to install Google Cloud CLI. This is going to allow us to log in, access our cloud resources, and it's going to enable us to connect to Vertex AI so that we can actually start to run our agent locally, because it'll have access to our Gemini keys and everything else we need to run it. And then finally, once it's up and working and everything's installed, we can then go ahead and deploy our agent to the cloud. And I have scripts and everything else that you need to make this as easy as possible. Like I said, I've tried to break down everything step by step. So let's go ahead and hop over to the first step, where we are going to look at the agent that we are going to deploying to the cloud today. So let's go ahead and hit to step number 1. So welcome to step number 1, where we're going to do a quick overview of the agent that we're going to be deploying to the cloud today. So at a high level, what we're doing is I've built a short bot agent for you guys, which all it does is this agent takes in a message and then makes it as short as possible to get the same message across. So as you can see, this looks just like LangChain and Crew AI, where you pass a name, model, and description. You pass in your instructions here, where you basically go ahead and say like, hey, this is the task you're trying to perform. And what you can also see is you can pass in tools, just like you would normally do with LangChain or Crew AI. So inside the tools, you just go ahead and make a normal Python function, give it a parameters, give it the types, give it a doc string of what it should do, and then all the code that needs to run. Like I said, this is more of a deployment tutorial, so we're not getting super fancy with the underlying agent. Okay, so first things first, I have set up instructions for you guys so that you can easily install this and run it locally. So if you head over to the README after you download this source code for free, what you can see is I have basically step-by-step instructions to where you guys can, go ahead and install the project. And to install it, you're going to need to use Poetry. Don't worry if you run into any issues, drop a comment down below, or you can go ahead and actually talk to ChatGPT and it'll walk you through installing Poetry on your local computer. Once you have installed Poetry, all you need to do is run Poetry install, and this is going to go off and install all the necessary dependencies that you need to actually run this project. Everything from the Google Agent Development Kit, which is the main one, and all the other tools you need for deploying and everything else. So that's what's going on at a high level. And then what you can do next is go ahead and activate the environment that you just created. And what this will allow you to do is actually run commands. Specifically, what you can do now is down here, what I've showed you guys, is you can actually go ahead and start to run your agent. Now, what you can do is just type in ADK web. And what this will do is it'll go ahead and spin up the web version of this agent so that you can begin to chat with it. Now, I am going a little bit ahead. In step 4, we'll actually go ahead and install Google Cloud, which will connect you to Vertex AI, which will actually allow you to go ahead and start running this. So this won't work out of the box until we do step 4. I just want to go ahead and give you a quick overview of the agent. So if we head over here, you can see we're now in the web view of our agent. So up here in the top left, you can see all of our agents that we have running, and then we can go ahead and start to type in messages that will get sent to our short bot. So we can say, hey, how was your weekend? We can say anything fun, have fun with the family. And then what it'll do is it'll go ahead and send that message off to our agent, and then our agent will go ahead and type a response back. Sorry, this is on me. I meant to refresh the page. So if we go ahead and send it again, what it'll do is it'll go ahead and actually run. And you can see what I've told the agent to do is give me the original character count, the new character count, and the new message. So you can see basically what it did is like, hey, this was kind of redundant. And what it did is it made it shorter. So you can see the agent's up and running. You can dive in to, seeing the events that happened, the initial request that was being passed in, the response. Don't worry if any of this is confusing. I'm actually going to, after this video, create a agent development kit quick start where I dive deeper, and I'm also going to create an agent development kit masterclass. So I'm gonna have a lot more content coming out around this, but today I just wanted to focus on deployment. So as you can see, our agent is actually up and running and it works. And you can see that there are instructions that will walk you through exactly how to install your agent and get everything running. Okay, cool. So we are officially done on the setup. The only other things that I do want to mention that are very important for you to understand how it all works at a high level for Agent Development Kit is the fact that the way Agent Development Kit works is you create agents through folders. So you can see we have an ADK short bot that is going to be the name of our agent. And then within this folder, you can see I create an agent.py file. Well, that's basically how it works. This is kind of how they want their structure of agent set up. So you can see name of agent here. Then we give the instructions for the agent. This name needs to match this name. It's very important that they match folder and project name. So that was just one thing that tripped me up whenever I first created an agent development kit. So yeah, so that's everything that you need to know at a high level when it comes to creating your agents. And we're going to go ahead and head over to step number 2, where we're going to start walking you through actually getting everything set up for the cloud. Let's go ahead, head over to step number 2. So welcome to step number 2, where we're going to create your Google Cloud Platform account and the project that you're going to be using to manage all the resources for our deployed agent. So first things first, inside of Google, just type in GCP Cloud, and you should see a link that will point you over to Google Cloud. So we're going to go ahead and click that. Now, what we need to do next is, if you've never created a Google Cloud account before, you're going to want to go ahead and sign up to create an account. It should be completely free to do. If anything, you might need to hook up a payment method. It's not going to charge you anything, but you might be asked to connect a payment method just so that you can access some of the newer features. You won't be charged until you run anything, so don't worry about that, but just wanted to point that out as an important note. Great, once you've signed up, now it's time for us to go ahead and go over to our console. So you're going to click console, and what this will do is it'll take you to inside of Google Cloud Platform. Now, if you see a screen like this, yours might be a little bit different if you've never created a project before. But as you can see on my screen, I can see I'm in the BrandonHancock.io workspace, and I'm working on the Deploy ADK Quick Start project. Together, we're going to go ahead and create a new project from scratch so that we're working from the same area. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is click New Project, and I'm going to call this ADK Short Bot YouTube. So this is just the name of my project. The naming really doesn't matter. It's just something that you'll easily memorize and recognize when you see it. Now, what you want to do next is click the billing account. So in my case, I have 2 billing accounts. You probably will now have 1 billing account because you went through the setup process. So click that. And then when it comes to your organization, I only have 1, and then location, I only have 1 either. So it should be pretty much just like this, except reflect your information. So next, we're going to go ahead and click create. And this will take a few seconds to create your new project, spin up all the resources, and get everything ready. Now, once it's done, you can click this button right here to select your project. And you can see in the top left, it now shows we're working inside the new project. If for whatever reason that didn't happen, you can always just click up here in the top left and research all the projects that you have and click the proper one. So great, we now are done with step 2. So let's go ahead and head over to step number 3, where we're going to enable all of our AI resources. So welcome to step number 3, where we're going to start enabling all of the AI services inside of your Google Cloud project so that we can start to deploy our agent. So first things first, what do we need to do? We need to enable Vertex AI. So what we can do is in the top of our search bar, type in Vertex AI, and you should see a search result just like this. We're going to click Vertex AI, and then we are going to click Enable All Recommended APIs. And this is going to create Vertex AI Studio and everything else that you need in order to start working with, Vertex AI. And a quick reminder, Vertex AI is also going to enable us to start using Agent Engine, which is the most important thing that we're trying to use here. Now, this does take quite a few seconds to create. So if you click on this little notification bell in the top right-hand corner, you can see all of the different resources and services that it's enabling, everything from compute, notebooks, data flows, everything that you need. And you can see it also went off and created a bunch of other services right here. So we're going to let that run. And then what we also need to do is create a new bucket where we can start to store our deploy agents. And what is important to note about this, I'm just going to show you an existing project so you can see it in action. This is something that I created a while ago, and you can see I made a bucket, which is where we're going to basically store our deployed agents. And you can see I made previously an ADK shortbot, and it got deployed to this bucket. And if you dig in, you can actually start to see some of the all the different folders and resources stored in order to actually run our agent. So all this is going to get stored to the cloud. Okay, so that's what we're ultimately trying to do. So what we can type in is bucket, and if you go to cloud storage bucket, this is what we're trying to do, and we need to create a new one. So in our case, you're going to click create, and then from here, we're just going to give it a simple name. So I'm going to call it the same name as my project. So ADK short bot YouTube, and then we can pretty much click continue for everything else. Now, it is important to note that this will cost money, but it's insanely cheap. So you can see it cost almost 3 cents per gigabyte per month. and we're going to be using barely anything. So like we might get charged a penny per month with what we're doing here. So don't worry about it. Like we're not going to be breaking the bank. So click continue, pretty much click continue through everything. And the defaults are usually great enough. And we're going to click and continue. The next one is what we want to do is, this one is important, enforce public access prevention. Basically what this means is, hey, can the outside world access our stuff? And the answer is no, we do not want the outside world accessing information in this bucket. So that is important that it stays checked. So we're going to click continue. We're going to use the normal soft delete policies and click continue. Basically, go ahead and just click everything as the default and you should be good. So great, our bucket is now set up. Things are great. And if you go back to our notification bell, you can also see that everything has been set up properly. Fantastic. Now there's one last piece that we need to work on together. So if you just click back to the root menu, which you can click on Google Cloud, it'll take you back to the root. We need to copy over a few pieces of information over to our bucket. So we need to copy two things. One, we need to copy the project ID. So you can click copy. And basically what we're doing is we are trying to update our environment to say, hey, AI agent, where do you want me to deploy and use all my project resources? That's exactly what we need to set up. So when it comes to Google Cloud Project, we're going to put your new project name here. For cloud location, we're just going to use the default, which in my case was US Central 1. I would recommend using this one as well. Basically, you could use any of the deployed AI enabled locations. There's a huge list, I think about 30 different places that enable access to AI features, but US Central 1 works. So I would definitely recommend using this. The final thing we need to do is say, hey, where is the bucket that you want me to deploy resources to? So what you can do is go ahead and type in, click cloud storage, which will take you back to your bucket. You're going to click buckets. Then when you click ADK shortbot or whatever name you gave it, what you can do is you can find the name for it right here. So whatever name pops up right here, that is the name of your bucket. So you can come back over here, paste it in. Fantastic. You now have your project set up to where it's pointing to all of your cloud resources. And that's everything that you need to do now that you've enabled all of your AI resources, set up your bucket, and you've updated your environment variables. So now what we can do is go ahead and head over to step number 4, where we're going to start setting up Google Cloud CLI to connect your local computer to all of your cloud resources. So let's go ahead and head over to step number 4. So welcome to step number 4, where we're going to set up the Google Cloud CLI on your local computer. And this is what's going to allow you to do two things. One, it's going to allow you to actually run your local agents properly, because it's going to give you access to Gemini on your local computer to where it's going to pull down all the credentials and give you access to running it. And two, it's going to give you the ability to start deploying your agents to Google Cloud. Now, why are we doing this? Well, if you actually head over to the Agent Development Kit Quick Start Guide, you can see there is a step to where it's like, all right, cool. In order to actually start to use these large language models, which option do you want to do to access the LLM service? And in our case, we are using Vertex AI, because that Vertex AI is what also gives us access to Agent Engine. So this is exactly why we're following the steps. So as you can see, it says to set up Google Cloud CLI. So what you can do is click this link, or in the README docs, I have a link for you to follow too. So what you want to do, click this link, and it'll take you to a website that looks just like this, where it's going to say, okay, here are the different platforms you can install Google Cloud CLI on. In my case, I'm on a Mac. So all I needed to do was, you obviously are going to click whatever platform you're using. But in my case, I'm on a Mac and I'm using Apple Silicon. So I went ahead and clicked this, and then I downloaded it. Once I downloaded it, all I needed to do was run this command that it tells you to run. And this is going to go ahead and install it on your local computer. So literally just follow these instructions. And then once it's installed, all you need to do is run Google Cloud init. What this is going to do is allow you to start to run Google Cloud anywhere on your computer. So once you run Google Cloud init, it's going to add it to your path. So you can, at any point, anywhere, just run Google Cloud and it'll start to work on your computer, just like this. Great. So I'm going to run Google Cloud init with you, because we also need to set up and connect our project to actually point to the proper project. So when you're first using it, it's going to ask you to do two things. It's probably going to ask you to log in. So let me just show you that as well. So you're going to run gcloud login. And what this will do is actually ask you to, gcloud auth login. So what this is going to ask you to do is go ahead and log into your account. So I'm going to log in. And then once you log in, you're going to say, yes, I want to accept all of these different permissions. Great, you're now logged into Google Cloud CLI and you can start to run any of the things that you want to do and actually have access to Google Cloud. Then what we can do is run Google Cloud init, and this is where we're going to go ahead and start setting up our local environment to start pointing to the proper projects. So yours is going to not show this because you're doing this for the first time. So you're going to probably just walk through the like, hey, what project would you like to set up? In my case, I'm going to say, hey, I want to reinitialize this to point to the proper project. So I'm going to say 1, I'd like you to show me all of my potential projects and I'll point to the right one. And before I do that, it's going to ask, which account would you like to use to perform? In my case, you saw me just log in with my email. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Then it's going to show me all of my existing projects. Now, in my case, we just created this project. So number 1, so this is the project I'm going to pick. You obviously want to pick the project you created in Google Cloud. Then it's going to say, do you want to configure a default zone? We're not going to worry about that for now. And now you can see, hey, congrats, you are ready to start using Google Cloud and it's connected to this project. So fantastic, you have actually set up Google Cloud to work locally on your computer. And what's really cool is now you also have ability to run that ADK command I showed originally, that ADK web, where it actually spins up the local agent that we created and runs it. Now that we have access to Vertex AI and all of our Gemini keys and everything else that are just automatically created under the hood, you can now start to actually run this as well. So this is where you can start to come in here, pick an agent. Let's actually go ahead. Sorry, I'm running this from the wrong folder. I was like, why is it showing all those random files? So sorry, you can actually run it here, ADK web, and this is where it'll show all of your different potential agents that you have. And this is where you can start to run it all. So ADK, and then, hey, how are you? So just to show that it's working. So it's going to run, it's going to go trigger it. It's going to original count, new count. Fantastic. So everything is looking good. So we now have our agent up and running, and we are now at the final step where we're going to start walking through how we can start to deploy this agent that we've created now to Google Cloud, now that we've set up and connected everything. So let's go ahead and head to step number 5. So welcome to step number 5, where we're now going to dive into deploying your agents over to Agent Engine. And before we just start running through the code where you're going to see exactly how to deploy these agents, I want to walk you through a few core concepts you need to understand first. So when we're actually looking at the code in just a second, you understand, oh yeah, that is what's happening. And I understand why all the different parts are moving the way they are. Okay, so let's look at a few of the most important things first. So what we've done so far is we have created an agent, and now that agent can run locally on our computer. And what we're trying to do is 2 things. 1, we want this agent to get bundled up into a container and deployed over to Vertex AI engine. That's exactly what we're trying to do here. And under the hood, when we dive in the code, you're going to see that this is actually super straightforward. You really will do 2 things. You are going to create the engine, and it's going to be called a reasoning engine because we're basically almost like building a chat agent is what we've done so far. And so we're creating a reasoning engine, and all we're doing is passing in our root agent, which is our short bot. And what we're doing is saying, hey, enable tracing. And once you've created your agent and it gets wrapped and turned into an application, all we need to do is then deploy it. And we're going to dive more into the code in just a second, but what we're going to do is to create a deployment. And how this works is you say, agent engine, please create a new engine. And all you do is pass in this application right here. And it's going to take all of the different agents, sub-agents, tools. It's going to package it all together and deploy it over to Agent Engine. And you need to specify 2 other things. Any requirements. So basically it's all getting bundled and packaged together. So if there's any specific packages your agents use, like if you're building a weather application and you needed to use like a Python weather SDK or anything like that, you would start adding all of those additional packages right here. So weather SDKs, if you were using some other fancy libraries, you'd pass them all right here. And then when it comes to extra packages, what you want to do is put the name of your package. So in our case, if you actually go look at the code that I wrote, you can see that everything that we're trying to deploy is in the ADK underscore shortbot package. So that's exactly what we've done over here, where we just say, hey, the only package you need to deploy is ADK shortbot, because this includes all the agents you need for deployment. So that's what we're putting there. So that's the only thing you need to put in the extra packages. Okay. Check. We've walked through high level what's happening. Now, there's a few core pieces of terminology you need to understand before we start deploying these to the cloud. So So far you've seen how we can create a deployment, and we run this Python code and it actually deploys it off to Agent Engine. And what that's going to do is create a deployment. A deployment is nothing more than all the instructions needed to run the agent. So it's just sitting there waiting to be used. Then what we can do is create a session. And a session is nothing more than saying, okay, I would like to use this deployed agent, and now I'm going to start having a conversation with it. So a session is nothing more than a conversation with an agent. So hopefully that makes sense. So let me show you some examples of this in action. When we were using our ADK web earlier in the browser, you saw how we could chat with our agent. So you can say we're chatting with this agent, and every time we create a new conversation, it's going to add a new session. And if you remember, a session is nothing more than messages. So if you actually click into a session, what you'll notice is it just shows this. It just shows a summary of all the messages we pass back and forth between us and the agent. If we had more tool calls, it would show the tool calls in here. And that's pretty much everything you need to know when it comes to deploying agents. There's deployments and there's sessions. Deployments contain all the instructions and packages and everything needed to run the agent, and sessions are actual conversations with messages with that specific deployed agent. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense and you kind of see how the dots connect. And don't worry, we're gonna actually, now that you've seen these high level concepts, we're gonna hop over to the code, deploy our agent, go ahead and start creating new sessions. And once we create a session, you're gonna see us actually start chatting with the agent back and forth. So let's go ahead and hop over to the code where we're gonna start taking action on everything you just learned. All right, guys, so welcome to the code portion of deploying your agents to Agent Engine. And before we dive in to look at the code, I just wanna mention that I've created a script for you guys to make deployment as easy as possible. And I've tried to set it up in a way to where you can just type in the command line and perform all the actions that you would like to do. Specifically, I have set up the code in a fashion so that you can create and delete and list all of your deployments that you've made to Agent Engine. And then outside of that, I've also set it up so that you can look and start to chat with all the sessions that you create, because remember, sessions are where we chat to. And then finally, I've set it up so that you can easily send messages and start to chat with your deployed agents in one of these sessions. So this will make more sense, and we're going to actually walk through it part by part. So don't worry if any of this is confusing. We're going to go step by step and hit each one of these. Okay, so first things first, what we need to do is create our own agent and deploy it to Agent Engine. This is the exact same code that you guys saw earlier, where we're going off and first creating the application and then deploying the agent application to Google Cloud App Engine. So here's what we need to do. If you come down to your terminal, you can type in poetry run, and then you can type in deploy remote. Now let me break down each part of this so it actually makes sense on why we're doing each thing. So poetry, this is what we're using for our package management. And what we're doing is saying, hey, I would like you to run this script. So where the heck is this script defined? Great question. If you head back over to pyproject.toml, you can see that I've created a script for you guys, which is deploy remote, and deploy remote calls the deployment Python file, and it calls remote, it goes to the deployment folder, calls the remote Python file, and runs the main function. So that's exactly what we have. So here is our deployment folder with our remote Python file, and then inside of that, we are trying to run this main function. So that's exactly what we have here. Folder, file, function. Okay, cool. Hopefully that makes sense. So now what we're going to do is we would like to go ahead and create our deployment of our agent. So I'm going to run it first, just so you can see how it works. We're not actually deploying and creating it yet. I just want to show you that it's going to give you all the possible options that you can run to basically use this deploy script. In our case, we're trying to create our deployment, which is going to push our local agent to the cloud. So we're going to run at the very end of this command -- create. And I'll make this a little bit bigger for you guys so you can see too. So now when I run create, what it's going to do is go, thank you for giving me everything that I need. I'm going to install all the proper dependencies that I need. And then from there, once I know everything I need to install, I'm going to use that bucket that you created earlier and we set up in our environment variable files. And I'm going to start saving everything over to our Google storage bucket. So I'm going to save all the instructions, dependencies, and I'm going to go ahead and build this agent and save it in a zip file over to our bucket. And then once it's saved everything to the cloud, things are happy, then it's going to kick off Agent Engine and saying, hey, Here's all the raw ingredients you need. Now, please go forth and deploy this agent. And you can actually look at the progress of this agent in real time to see where it's at in the deployment process. Quick heads up, this can take like up to 10 minutes to deploy an agent. So, get a cup of coffee and wait. But let me show you what's going to happen in real time. So if we click on that link, we can look at the logs, the deployment logs in real time. So let me go ahead and make this full screen for you guys. So what we can see is we are in our correct project. And then you can see in real time, it is going through the entire deployment process. So you can see, let me zoom out. Oops. Sorry, it doesn't like being in this like half state. So you can see in real time what it's doing is it is going, okay, cool. All those packages you put in listed in our Google storage bucket, I'm going to go ahead and download everything in the bucket that you told me to download. And I can actually show this to you in real time. So if we hop back over here and we go to our cloud storage bucket, you can see that everything that we talked about is actually deployed. So you can see in our agent engine folder, you can now see it has all of our requirements. So you can see if I was to actually look at this, so we'll go ahead and look at it just so you can see it. So you can see it has all of the proper dependencies needed to actually run this agent. And then what it's doing is it's downloading everything in those requirements file. And from there, what it's doing is it's installing all the dependencies in real time. And what it's trying to do is fully download, create the container, and get it ready to be fully deployed on Agent Engine. So what I'm going to do is do a quick pause, and we're going to come back once the agent is fully deployed, because like I said, it can take up to 10 minutes. And I'll show you that it's running once it's done deploying. All right, guys, so it just deployed our agent to Agent Engine, and we can confirm that it properly deployed it by running the list deployments command. So you can see we have an extra function in here that's going to say, all right, Agent Engine, please list out all the deployments so I can see what's actually been deployed to the cloud. So to run this, all we need to do is go back and see what available commands we have to us. And in our case, we want to run the list command. So come back up here, type in list, and now we should see that we have a deployed agent on Agent Engine. Fantastic. This is the exact agent we wanted to deploy. Now we can move forth with creating a new session. And a session is nothing more than a conversation between us and our deployed agent. And the important variables that you need to pass in when creating a session are the resource ID. So this is like, hey, what deployed agent should I talk to? Also, which user is talking with the agent. This doesn't need to exist anywhere else. Like this, usually would just come from your application. And the reason Agent Engine put this in here is so that at any point you could go up and look to figure out all the different conversations a specific user has had with a specific agent. So that's why they put it here. It's really just to help you list out sessions later on. So let us go ahead and try it out. So we're going to copy the resource ID because that's what we needed. And in this time, what we're going to do is run the create session command. This is what we're running this time. So we're going to type in create session, and then pass in the resource ID. And if you don't pass in a user ID specifically, it just uses test user by default. So that's totally fine with me. So we're going to go ahead and create our session, and this will take a few seconds and showcase the new session results. So ta-da, you can now see I just created your session for you. Here's the new session ID. Here's the user ID, in our case, test user, and everything else you need to know about the new session with our agent. Great. So now that we have that set up, what we can do is fetch that specific session just to show that it was created properly. So what we can do, you can see we have a get session flag. We'll actually skip it and we're just going to go ahead and chat with the session, but just know you could list out all your sessions for a specific user, and you could grab a specific session to see all the message history. But in our case, let's go ahead and have fun and send the specific message. So going back to earlier, we need to call the send flag. So in our case, send is the new command we're trying to run. So we're going to type in send, and now we can look up what information do we need to provide. Well, resource ID, we have that. What else do we need to provide? We need to provide the user ID. In our case, this was just test user. And then finally, we need to pass in the session ID. So session ID, you can grab that right here. And then what we need to do is pass in the actual message itself. So you can see message right here. So dash message. And now we can just say like, hey, how did your weekend go? Anything fun? And then we can send this off to our agent. And what we should see back in just a few seconds is our agent responding back to us. So you can say, we sent this message, how'd your weekend go? And then we got back this response. So the original character count was 38. I shortened it to 23 just by saying, hey, how was your weekend? So all around, it did a good job of shortening the entire thing. So all around, super impressed, and that is us actually communicating with our deployed agent. This isn't local, this is a deployed agent running in the cloud to where it's running, doing its thing. So all around, I thought this is amazing. Now, let me go ahead and we're gonna hop over next, just as a bonus session. I wanna show you how you can start to look at traces and logs of these deployed agents. Let's go ahead and look at that real quick. Okay, so as a bonus, I wanted to show you guys how you could look at traces for your deployed agents. And a trace is nothing more than a specific set of messages that have been passed back and forth. It's how you can actually see what's going on between your agent and your users. So all you need to do back inside Google Cloud, what you can do is type in traces, and you should see something called Trace Explorer. That's exactly what we want to click. Once you click Trace Explorer, you can start to see all the different messages that have been sent between you and your customers. So you can see we have an invocation, which goes ahead, and if you click on it, you can see how it says, all right, this trace shows that agent, specifically the ADK shortbot, was called. Then you can see, well, what did that agent do? Well, it called an LLM. Then you can dive in here to see everything that happened. So you can see we called Gemini Flash 2.0. You can see that we gave it instructions saying like, hey, your message is shortening assistant. Here's what you should do. You can see the response from the LLM. So you can actually see everything that happens inside of your agents going through traces. So this is a really cool way to like look back and see like, hey, what has been happening inside of my agent? Is it been performing properly? You can, if you wanted to, you could do some filters here to say like, hey, I only want to look at LLM calls that have happened and see, well, what are the LLM calls that happen? So you can actually dig in and see everything here. I thought traces was a super cool functionality and definitely wanted to show it to you guys because now you're an expert at deploying agents to Agent Engine, and this is a next step that you could look in to see how your agents are performing. And just a few quick reminders, you can download all the source code that you saw in the video today completely for free. Just check out the link down in the description below. And if you need help, feel free to drop a comment down below or to head over to my free Skool community with over 6,000 like-minded AI developers where we have weekly free coaching calls, and we'd love to chat with you and get you unstuck and moving forward on your AI projects. Also, I have a lot more AI content right here on this channel. I definitely recommend checking out whatever videos are popping up next, and I'll soon be dropping new videos on Agent Development Kit, a complete masterclass, and a quick start guide. So definitely hit the like and subscribe button so you can be notified as soon as those videos come out. But until the next time, I can't wait to see you guys, and good luck on all of your AI projects. See ya.